welcome to Season 2, Episode 9. We are almost through our second season of Eat This, Drink That. We have Ali Khan, our food expert, SC fan, looking forward to the game today. And then we have, this is his season here, Steve Greer with another awesome episode planned for us. So Steve, what is your Drink That for today?
So we just talked about this. This has been the season of rabbit hole, worm, whatever you want to call it. Seriously long.
Sounds like we're talking about physics.
What's that?
Sounds like we're talking about like space physics.
Yes.
Like it's Professor Greer and the worm wine hole.
Yeah.
Wine worm
And
hole.
the episodes have been seriously long. They get longer and longer. What we're going to talk about today, which is Piemonte in northwestern Italy, is a rabbit hole upon a rabbit hole upon a rabbit hole. I mean, they're inside this little area are 19 DOCGs. So that's the top level of rules and areas of wines. And there's 42 DOCs. We're not going to talk about all these. I mean, that would, people spend their life. I'll show you one thing. These are two books just on two of the DOCGs. So this is one book just on Borolo, very small little area. It goes through and it tells you the contours of every single vineyard, the elevation, the exposure. Then there's a whole nother book just on Barbaresco.
Wow. So these are all the 101 here for Italian wine. Barolo is an area place. Yeah. Barbaresco is an area place.
And we are up by Torino.
Well, I don't need to read that book. I know everything I need to know.
But I pared this down so that we could really have fun just talking about Christmas dinners, what to pair with these wines. They're 4 really fun wines. I stuck just with reds. We're not even going to talk about the whites of this area. I did my best on trying to keep this pared down so we could have fun talking about each one. So,
all right. I'm going to let you go in, but I had a question. Why Italian red for Christmas? Because Christmas is it because of the ham that's like in my oven right now? Like, what is it? What is it about Italian red and Christmas? Why does that work?
I consider these special wines. These aren't usually wines that people just buy and drink every day.
Right.
In the case of Borolo, a lot of times you want to age these for 10, 15, 20. I even had a 1967 that was unbelievable wine.
So these are expensive. It sounds.
I did a really good job at keeping these under 50. I think the Barolo is the most expensive.
Under 50? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll find the receipt so we can go through. I forgot to write these down.
We believe you.
Yes. The other thing is, most of these, outside of the Dolcetto, are really high in acidity. So they go really well with all the fatty foods that you might have on the tables. Starting with the Pelaverga, you're going to be able to have these from start to finish. So when you have a bunch of cheeses, charcuteries, salumis down on the table, you're going to be able to start with that. You can move into the Dochetto, into the Barbera, and then into the Borolo for dinner, which could go with ham, ossobuco. Ossobuco is the perfect pairing for that wine, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got a lot. It's going to be fun. So
it's fair to say these wines are wines that you wouldn't get if you're just going, hey, look at this bottle, let's go drink it by the fire.
Yes, because some people just don't think of Italian wines when they're going to the wine store to buy wine for drinking on a Tuesday night. Hopefully after this episode, they do. I mean, we haven't even...
And they're eating cheese on a Tuesday. I think that's kind of the thing, too, is like, and that's one thing I've been learning this season is you really have to have, the wine is just half of it. You really, once you have the appropriate food there, then it really becomes the full experience. experience.
Yeah, I'll dive into the region and the dishes and all that in a second, but I'll go through the wines really quick. So, Costello De Verduno, this is Pelaverga, which is a very weird grape from this area, from this little village called Verduno. He's one of a few producers that make Pelaverga. I love this wine. There was a little Italian restaurant around the corner from my house in LA that got a big drop of this every year on release. And I would just go over there 2-3 times a week, eat and drink this until it was gone. And
that was a Borolo?
No,
that's a
so
Borolo?
This is just Verduno. This is the grape Pelaverga. This is a bright, pretty, light wine. It's very, very light. This is the opposite
what do
end
we
of Borolo.
What do I need to eat?
We'll go through that when we talk about the wines a little bit. I'm going to go through and tell you price. So this is about $30. Then we have the Dolcetto, which is another grape in the region. It's from the town of Asti. This is, all right, where to go?
Kind of a hipster looking label.
$20.
Let's just get that out.
$20. $20.
$20.
Nice.
This is from kind of a traditional producer too, G.D. Vahara.
And that's a Dolcetto?
What's that?
That's the Dolcetto.
Dolcetto. That's the grape. So I'm just telling you the grapes for each of these. Then Vietti, maybe a hybrid producer, modern and traditional. This is also from the town of, this is from the town of Asti. This was from the town of Alba. This is Dochetto. This is Barbera. So this is a totally different grape. And then we get into the king of the region, Borolo. So the grape is actually Nebiolo, but it's from a traditional producer called Odero. And we can start diving in. This is
all from one DOC?
No, all from one region. So this is the region of Piemonte in the northwest corner, situated kind of at the foot of the Alps. And it actually means foot of hills, or foot of mountain. And so you're nestled up against the Alps. And
it's a trip. I don't think, I've never been to Italy, right? I don't imagine, when I think of what pops into my head for Italy, first of all, it involves like some sort of food. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then, like, if I think about the place, I think of like it being warm. You know, like the ocean, the sea, you know what I mean? Not like mountains. So this is very interesting.
Yeah, I think North Italy and South Italy are kind of two very separate things.
Totally different.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of mountains beaches in Italy. It's surrounded
it's on the border of Switzerland.
Yep. So. And Austria. And France. This is the closest region to France, I believe. Then you have a whole spine of mountains that go down the center of Italy. So there are a lot more. Oh, and I think it's 5% of the vineyards in this region, in Piemonte, are flat. 5%. So 95% are on some sort of rolling hill, or and there's tons of these little amphitheaters. So you have vines that kind of in a horseshoe. So the exposure to the sun can vary from 100 feet. So you have little microclimates all throughout a region that has its own climate.
Is there any area, I'll just use California because we're all familiar with it. Is there any area like, I don't know, California West Coast that's anything like this? Or is it just holy, wow, hey.
And there really is no other region like this in Italy. This is its own thing. You know, when you go down to Tuscany, you have some rolling hills, but you have a lot of
might
sunshine.
Be close to Napa, if you had to.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. But Piedmont is its own thing, kind of like David S. Pumpkins. It's its own thing.
And the cool part about this region, too, is it's close to Emilia-Romagna, so mortadella, Parmesan, what else?
I had some last night. Sorry, I'm getting carried away.
Lasagna.
Yeah. Wow, super dope. crazy Alps. I'm thinking Sound of Music all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Weird German outfits for Oktoberfest, but it's Italy.
Yeah.
It's blowing my mind. What's also clear is I just don't know a whole lot about what's clearly on a map in my son's room. All right, cool. Piedmont.
And then just over the road is Lombardia. And so you have risotto and ossobuco that's home in that region. And then inside Piemonte are truffles, agnolotti pasta, salumis that are made with nutmeg that are just amazing. Salumi Piemontese, I think it's called. Could be. But this is the home of food. And all these wines go really, really well with food. So, like I said, Nebiolo rules. This is the king of wines is Barolo. The queen is Barbaresco. It's a different soil and a different exposure and different aging rules. So one is a little more full throttle and heavy and tannic than the other. Barolo is the king. You also have a whole region of little smaller, cool, Longue, Gattinara, Gemay, that all grow the same grape, Nebbiolo. It's just a different region. So different microclimates, different soils, different aging.
So the Barolo, the king, the tannic one, and I feel like this is also a very good conversation starter about wine, which is what are the wines that you'll totally enjoy on its own? Or what are the wines that you really will experience best with food? Could you drink the Barolo? I know we're just been talking about how this is like where this is a food region, but because it's so tannic, could you crack a Barolo? Could you just drink
if
that?
It's just a drink? Well, if it's older, for sure, 20, 30 years old. Or if it's a little more modern and you do like tannic wines, drying sensation on the palate, you could. But I think it takes away from what that wine really is. You should.
Dang, all right. Yeah. Good to know. Good to know.
Let's start with the first wine because you can just sit around and drink and relax with this wine. So I think it's best to go back to our philosophy: cocktail wines, food wines. This is a hybrid. I mean, this goes great with food. You can't really see today. Here we go. Verduno.
There we go.
So that's the village. The grape is Pelaverga. The producer is Costello De Verduno. They've been there a really long time. This Costello De Verduno. Pelaverga was an almost extinct varietal, and the only reason I included this is it's one of my favorites. I buy this every year. I buy a 6-pack of it. Like I said, I would go over to Osteria La Buca in LA and I would drink it until it was gone. They would get their 10-case drop. It'd be there for like 3 months. And that would be the wine that I would drink. I love this wine. It is sweet cherry with like a lightly peppery spice. That's the best way to describe it. It's really bright acidity. So it's fresh, almost floral, and really crisp and easy to drink. You can serve this at like cellar temperature, so 55 degrees right out of your wine fridge, or have it in the refrigerator and then pull it out for like an hour. What I like about this producer is it's all stainless steel. We've talked about that idea of transparency, and we mainly talked about it during the natural wine episode last week. When you ferment and age in stainless steel, there is no secondary flavors coming from the aging, from the wood. This gives you a really beautiful interpretation of what that grape is and what it tastes like from that town of Verduno. So if we go back to food, this could be a pizza wine. This could be an appetizer wine, an aperitivo. So you're just sitting around eating cheeses, eating salumis, all that mortadella and all the fatty meats that come over from Emilia-Romagna way. Or you can just drink it on its own. I love this wine. So,
Steve,
when you say you can drink it on your own, but it's like acidic, like
I don't mind.
That's to be a help or something. Right?
Good point. I don't mind acidic wines. So a cocktail wine that's has that bright acidity and freshness doesn't bother me. Some people might want that kind of broader sensation, lower acidity, which we'll get to in the next wine. But, I mean, for Christmas, you usually have a spread of food that you eat all day long.
Basically, Greer always has charcuterie. He's got cheese and salami, like, just all over. Like, it's just, like, in his toothpaste. Because that's the thing. It's like, and then, the thing is, we are talking about Italian food. The man talked about salamis that have nutmeg in it, which really narrows things down. So I totally accept that. You're right. This Christmas, there's a lot of food. I mean, we're on the heels of Thanksgiving as we record this. Like, yeah, there's just food that you've been eating. We've been eating. You've been nibbling. You've been picking. So I get
And it's a day of the NBA. So you just sit around and watch NBA all day long. You eat and drink all day long. And this is a really easy way to start the day.
Are you starting at 10 a.m. on Christmas as well, Steve? You mentioned 10 a.m. on Thanksgiving. Are you starting at 10 on Christmas or maybe earlier?
I'm a big fan of starting at 10 a.m. Because you just get to eat all day long. So at my house, my mom always made, when we were growing up, this breakfast casserole that was just nothing but fat. So really good bread.
You probably need a red wine to power through it.
power through his Jimmy Dean cornbread casserole.
Yes. Yeah, it was really good bread, very good sausage, spicy Italian sausage, an egg mixture, and cheese, and you just threw the whole thing in. You made it the day before. You put it in the oven. That was breakfast, and that started at like 9, and then you just eat all day. And we also had a tradition of going to a big Christmas Eve dinner, a new restaurant, wherever. So it was food for 2 days at my house growing up. So
I wanted to, before we jump to the next wine, and then again, it was called a Verduno.
Well, that's the village. And actually the name of the winery too, because they've been there so long. The Great.
I pulled it from somewhere. Yeah. But what's the what would you call that wine generally?
Well, you could just call it Pelaverga after the grape.
Pelaverga. So you said it's a pizza wine. I think one of the interesting things about exploring a wine like this, it's kind of unique. That's like, you know, kind of met with food, but works so well with pizza. Like what kind? Because I feel like this could be a great reason to get this wine. Yeah. It's like, oh wow! I mean, there's so many great. I think Neapolitan pie is just taken over the country. So a great reason to get a good bottle of Italian red wine. Makes a lot of sense. What is it that works with pizza? Does it work better with some pizzas versus others, like I say a margarita? Or would it work with the freaking slice of Joe's pepperoni, like off St. Mark's Place? You know what I mean? Like, because pizzas can be broad.
Yeah, that's true. So Neapolitan style. It could go with a range of meats and toppings on the pizza, but it's the acidity that helps. And the bright... You don't want a tannic, brooding, dark wine going with pizza.
Is it comparable to just sort of what we would call a table wine, like a red table wine that they have?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and remember we talked about Lambrusco last week? This is not Lambrusco. It is totally different. But it shares a common flavor. It's that bright, pretty red fruit. And that bright, pretty red fruit in pizza, it feels light and refreshing while you're eating margarita pizza.
Because I always like, you know, people, again, this is sort of maybe 10 years ago or plus, but, you know, people often have Merlot or Cabernet Sauvignon. But then when I go to an Italian place, they have this table wine that you get, and it's so bright and nice, and it's sort of, I just never felt like I had it at people's houses. It was sort of not, I don't know if that makes sense, but like, and so I don't, that's why I was asking to compare, because I always want people to bust out a table wine instead of, say, the Merlots or the Cabs.
I think it makes total sense, and that's how I've always, frankly, had trouble approaching Italian wine, because, like, you know, it was always, like, way lighter and more cutting than just be like, if I went to wine tasting and it was Italian wine and there wasn't food, it kind of sucked. You know what I mean? I was like, I guess I get it. You know, it's confusing. For me, I feel like I was getting half of it. But like, yeah, like if you're at, what's that pizza place in Eagle Rock?
Casabianca.
Casabianca. You know, thin crust. You could taste the fennel in the sausage pie.
Yes.
So not garbage pie. You know what I mean? But like plenty of meat, plenty of cheese, hot, sizzling, oily, and you're just drinking that red hooch. That's just like, it's nothing crazy. You know what I mean?
But then they never tell you what grape it is. They never tell you. It's just generic. It's just like
glug, bro.
Glug.
Like you could have in a cup. You know what I mean? It wasn't like looking at that thing, but you know, it worked.
Yeah.
It worked, and you know, it was like kind of fun when you have wine. Like, you know, I thought like when I think about it, and I think about this, and for people who don't know what I'm talking about, this is a red and white checkered Italian restaurant doing that thin crust Midwest style pie. Whenever I went to this place in Los Angeles, I was like, I feel like I'm back in the Midwest. Right. Looks like a place in freaking Michigan, Wisconsin, whatever.
Yeah.
They'd have that red wine, and I would go in my 20s, and that wine was cheap, the pizza was cheap, it was cash only, and you know, you'd just be like, yeah, this is cool. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to think about it. You weren't like, oh, it's expensive. Is it cork? Should I sip it? No. Let's get 3 pies and crack that wine right now, and you're just going for it. You don't care if you got a pepperoncini in your mouth, that kind of wine. You know what I mean? Like, let's go.
Those are a couple good points there. So there's one common thread with Italian wines, especially the reds: acidity. So almost all, and this is a very broad, generic reference to Italian wines, and there's plenty of examples that break the rule on this. But in general, Italian wines have more acidity. And Italian restaurants, especially the old school Midwestern checkered, you know, a New York Italian, they didn't tell the guest what the varietal was. They didn't tell the guest what the region was. They said red, white. And
No. That's 100. Yeah. That is 100. It's like red or white. And he was like, it was cool. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you may not like be freaking out like Pinot Noir sideways movie stuff, but it was an elevated experience for like affordable eating. You know what I mean? Like, it made that pizza better. And so that's what brought me to this idea of like, well, here's, you know, I don't know. I guess for me, like, there's a lot of these Neapolitan pies that are in food trucks in Austin, and you can BYO.
Yeah.
And so the idea of getting a wine like that and just being like, ka-chunk, you know, and just having that pie.
And that's this wine. That is this wine. That is Pelaverga for sure. You're going to have trouble finding this wine, by the way. This is a weird, out there wine. I only brought it because I always have bottles of this. I think it's a fun extension. But there's another grape called Gringillino. That's another grape kind of similar to this. That's a little easier to find. Also great with pizza. I like wines with pizza. I like slightly chilled and bright. And both of those fit that description.
Nice.
Okay.
And so that's a good point about the table, too. All of these wines are considered table wines. They are fermented dry.
Nice.
You know, even a California Cab is considered a table wine. That was an old reference. The way the Italian restaurants would just do it, whatever wine they came through that they really liked that was cheap, that's what they put on as the table red that week. Probably a lot of it was Montepulciano, D'Abruzzo, or some sort of bright.
I used to get that stuff. I remember just getting it. It was pretty affordable. It was just like, it was easy. Yeah. It was easy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, glug.
Now, this next wine, Dolcetto. Dochetto means little sweet one, I think. It is not sweet, but the grape is richer. It is fruitier, so it comes across as sweet. It was a grape that they used in the vineyards as kind of a filler area. So Nebiolo was planted in the very best portion of that amphitheater, spread out hillside vineyard. So mid-slope, best vines go right in there, and that's the Nebiolo. And they would put Dochetto right above it. It would ripen just a little bit before Nebiolo. It's plums and red fruit. So it tastes like a ripe plum and red berries with a little bit of herbaceousness to it too. Lower acidity, so it feels soft on the palate, and you can just sit and drink it. Just
Nice.
Would we call it broad, Steve?
Yes.
Is it broad? Yeah. We had this conversation a while ago because after having this amazing gigandas, like, you know, the dope French red wine, I had a total garbage Pinot Noir. And it was like, the best way I describe it is if Jolly Rancher came out with a Pinot Noir flavor, it was like, yeah, Steve called it cloying. Way to get out the dictionary. It was sweet. It was kind of gross. It basically, like, when you have a full glass of it, you're like, I'm catching a buzz and a headache. Like, it's just like not great, you know. It's like how to get someone who's never had alcohol into wine kind of thing, right? So when we talked about the difference between the gigandas, which again, it's something that, like, before all this, I would be like, I get it, but I don't get it. I feel like something's missing. And that's the whole point. That's like, he said it's like long, elongated. And then when we're getting into this wine, the Dolcetto, it is interesting because there is something broad it's a little mass market. It's like Marvel, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people are going to like it, but it's a good script and you like the jokes. Yep. It's not the worst Pixar movie ever. You know, it's a little more Marvel, I feel like. We're getting Marvel a bit, you know?
And this is a little more traditional of a producer, so it's not overdone. It's also in stainless steel, so you get that transparency of place and grape.
This is a whole new thing Greer's bringing up. He goes, stainless steel. Let's just be a little more stainless steel about what's happening in our government. You know what I mean? It's like the lies put out there by the NRA and their oak barreling. You know what I mean? Like barreling is now this huge manipulation conspiracy. Great, I like it. Stainless steel, transparent,
and versus so easy to drink. If everybody should just, whenever they see Dochetto, just grab it from the store. That is the perfect Tuesday, Wednesday night wine. Nice. And this, for this Christmas dinner, when everybody's coming over, this is going to fit the palate of almost everybody.
I was going to say it's probably pretty popular.
Yeah, very
it won't
popular.
be like, oh, it wasn't really my thing. Got it.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
And I
knew it was Marvel. It was like Iron Man.
Yeah. So the cool Marvel. So Iron Man with Tony Stark, where it's fun and it's not overdone and not too much of the CGI. What's the guy? Robert Downey Jr. So it's actually a really good actor. Yeah. So that's the Iron Man of Marvel comics.
Sick. Dolcetto's the 2008 Iron Man. Let's find.
So this varietal is easier to find than the previous one?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. You could almost, every market should have a Dochetto. Any serious wine store is going to have a Dochetto.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people are going to just enjoy drinking it, but it's an Italian wine, which means it has to be with food. What kind of food?
Well, this is another pasta, pizza, just sit back, relax, Tuesday night wine. You can cocktail with it. You can have it with food. It is a lower in acidity. So you don't have to have this with food to get the full experience of this wine. But it will still stand up to anything that you're throwing down during the week.
Cool.
Okay. Is there something when it's not as acidic where you're having foods like, I don't know. I mean, this is always hard when you're trying to say like red wine and like white fish or something like that. You know what I mean? Like what happens when a wine is a little bit more broad, i.e. easygoing, like right on, I'm drinking some wine. Is there a kind of food profile that opens up doors? Because I feel like anything cutting, acidic, you want to have with like a lot of fat. You know what I mean? Like a rich, you have that sharpness cut through. What about a broad wine? What does a broad wine do with food that the acidic one doesn't?
Easier dishes, lighter dishes. I'm not going to say salads because anytime you put vinegar in anything, it's going to.
I was wondering if we were going to ever mention vegetables at all.
I will say this: I was like, the way he said salad too was really anti that sausage casserole.
What about some hot vegetables? What about some oily zucchini or something?
Perfect. Eggplant, Parmesan, anything like that. Yeah,
that's pretty
like
that.
When you're talking steaks, you want tannins. You want stuff that's each of the things are gonna complete each other. They're not gonna overwhelm or overpower. The tannins and the fat from the steak really go together. This you can do with a bigger range of dishes. You don't have to really pick the perfect pairing because it's going to have a little more ease in its pairing. So yeah, chicken dish,
eggplant parm sandwich.
yes, bingo.
Which, by the way, eggplant parm is actually the best parm. Actually, let's just get that out.
That's the best pizza at Casa Bianca's as well.
Yeah, I just think eggplant parm at its finest. Veal parm's the worst because the veal's almost always dry.
Yeah, it's always
unless you go to like that insane place in New York City, Carbone, that's $1 zillion, and they take an entire like $60 veal rib chop and they parm it. Yeah. That's not what Casa Bianca and friends do. You know what I mean? They don't take some freaking hardcore like 30-ounce veal and then turn it into parm. Yeah. But chicken parm is great, but it's just like, I don't know. I think when chicken parm's at its best, you're just fighting it to be dry. Eggplant parm as a sandwich, that's what's up.
So vegetable dishes, any sort of roasted vegetables, and that's perfect with it. Any sort of lightly roasted chicken dish. Dochetto.
You know, another thing, I don't know if you guys ever had it, like the alt lasagnas. So instead of like even a red sauce lasagna.
Green or white sauce lasagna?
Green, white sauce, mushroom lasagna. It strikes me maybe Dolcetto would work with the risotto, mushroom risotto.
Yeah.
Or is it
Yeah. Remember, right over to the east is where risotto is from. So a mushroom risotto would be amazing with that. And it would be really good with the next wine because usually risotto has fat. This is Barbera. So different town, Asti. So that Dochetto is $20. This wine is $18.29. So we're under $20.
That's great.
Vietti is the producer. Barbera is the grape. Asti is the town. Barbera has high acidity. So fattier, lower, rich so higher fat dishes with not so much richness. This is a perfect wine. So I just completely messed that up in my description on that. So if it's, just a softer, lighter dish, but it still has fat, so cream sauces, this wine.
Interesting.
Wild mushroom risotto, this wine.
Ravioli?
Yeah. Yeah. Aioli dishes, this wine. Barbera, deep color, also still that bright cherry, and that's a lot has to do with the acidity of the wine, but it's not tannic. So you don't have to worry about the tannins with this wine.
Okay.
Is this hard to find in the stores?
No. This is another one you should be able to find really easy. Barbera to Asti, Barbera to Alba. Just Barbera is the grape.
So these are all around 20-ish bucks?
Yeah. Once we get to the last wine of the day.
That's great.
Dun, dun, dun. Now, do any of these, do you have to like decant, let them breathe, anything like that?
No, I almost always decant wines, including whites, if we're going to drink the whole bottle. It always helps to get air into it, but you do not have to. The last wine, you need to decant, especially if it's younger. Barolo, Barbaresco, even Longue, Nebiolo. But with this Barbera d'Asti, you don't need to at all with the Pelaverga, the first wine. The Dochetto, you can throw it in, and but you don't need to. You don't have to decant any of these wines.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Agnolotti, we talked about that being the pasta of the region. This with even a wild boar agnolotti. This Barbera would be amazing with that. So ragouts and stews and any of that.
Ossobuco? Is that the Ossobuco?
No,
wine?
we stay with the Ossobuco. Let's go to the last one. Because this is the big boy. This is Odero Barolo. So Borolo is the region. The grape is Nebiolo. This is $58.
Ooh.
You can.
Well, Nebiolo, you had mentioned, that gets the prime real estate in the amphitheater. By the way, I love how, like, literally, like, in the ruins of Gladiator is where they freaking grow grapes. Yeah,
and it's not an amphitheater like that. It's just shaped like a bowl. All these little hillsides and rolling hills and valleys.
Oh, I was picturing broken marble.
The appellation, you're calling it an amphitheater?
Yeah. It's just like you're walking into a little cavern, and it's this rolling hill that just kind of circles around you in the shape of an amphitheater. The best sites along that hillside are going to get Nebiolo. Traditionally, these all were planted based on, because Nebiolo comes from the word nebbia, which means fog. This thing doesn't even ripen fully and get harvested until late autumn when there's fog everywhere. And that's why the grape is named after fog. Whereas these other ones, Barbera and Dolcetto, would traditionally get placed in the areas that ripened earlier, because Barbera is picked first, then Dochetto, or hold on. No, Dochetto, then Barbera, I think is how it goes. And then it's about 2 weeks, and then Nebiolo is last.
Okay.
And this would be comparable with, everyone knows that, San Francisco is a very foggy city. And so that's why they have those nice wine regions, in the area.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So comparable
this
with that.
retains acidity. This is very tannic. It's also very delicate in its color and flavor. So this is very floral, very bright, pretty cherry fruit.
We drink this by itself? Is that the preferred?
No. This
no.
is a big wine. There is very few people that can just sit around and cocktail with a Borolo. So it's a late harvest. It's very fragrant, high acidity, high tannins, pretty cherry, very floral. This one actually comes from 3 different vineyard sites. Stainless steel fermentation, but it goes into barrique or big barrel. 30 months in wood. So, yeah, 30 months, and it's Austrian and Austrian oak. But Borolo is different in 2 ways, not just where it's grown from Barbaresco, but Borolo is aged a minimum of 3 years for a regular Borolo. 18 of those months have to be in wood. And then if it's a Reserva, it's 5 years of aging. Whereas Barbaresco is 1 year less for both. So 2 years, 9 months in oak, or for a Reserva, 4 years. That time in barrel adds substance to the wine, and kind of reduces the tannins a little bit. This is the wine for Ossobuco. This is the wine for big, rich, meaty dishes.
So it's interesting. You describe this wine. I feel like this kind of paints the big picture of understanding Italian wines in the especially Italian reds in the context of everything else. When you say like this is the big bowl, and it's tannic, my mind starts to go into like those big, heavy, cultish Napa Valley cabs, but it's much lighter than that, right?
Okay. Yeah, and that's
nice read, Ali.
That's the really fun thing about this wine is that it has power from the tannins, but it's also very delicate because of the flavor profile. This is not a dark, brooding, dense wine at 16% alcohol with cassis and almost a liqueur flavor to it. This is light and pretty with power at the same time. It's an amazing wine.
Because when you said delicate, that's why I thought, oh, you would drink this on its own. But perhaps you're saying delicate, meaning it pairs better.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, delicate in the sense of its flavor profile. So this just isn't all fruit. And sorry, I was looking that up because I'm upset at myself for not remembering. I think it's Dochetto, then Barbera, and then Nebiolo is harvested. So Dochetto is first. But I can't totally remember. Delicate in the sense of when you have a Napa Valley cab, you're almost, especially when it's young, you're getting a monolithic flavor profile. So it is dark black fruit. So blackberries, almost blackberry jam. And that's really all you're getting in its youth. And it's also a really deep dark color.
Okay.
This is a light color. You can it's almost Pinot Noir light in color.
Okay.
And you get floral, you get spice. You're not just getting fruit and a dense fruit. And the fruit profile on this is more light cherry fruit, red raspberries. So delicate in the sense of not the tannins and the structure, but in the flavor profile.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And the age worthy of these wines will age 50 years.
So I wanted to ask you this last thing too. You said it's tannic, but then, again, you hear like, oh, this is the Reserva. It's like with tequila, you hear añejo. Yeah. And you're like, well, it's more expensive. It sits in a thingy for longer. It must be better. What is the point? Because obviously it is interesting, and that's the coolest thing about wine is the transformation from its production to the aging. What is the purpose of the Reserva? Like where and like why Reserva and what with it? Because I feel like there needs to be an appreciation of like Reserva's dope, but it's also like Añejo's dope, but Silver's dope too. You know what I'm saying? Like
so for Barolo and Barbaresco, it's really the best grapes from the best years are going into that Reserva. So they're going to have a bigger, denser tannic profile. So you need a little more time in barrel. With modern technique, both in the vineyard and in the winery, it's not necessarily the case anymore. You can just have a Barolo and not Reserva level. It will still age really well. I think we've talked about this. Acidity is the preservative for aging, and tannins are the fuel. So this has both. This has the acidity to preserve it during its process of aging, and the tannins in here are the fuel for aging for that 30, 40, 50 years.
That's why the tannin goes away. Mm-hmm. So essentially those kind of like bright, bitter elements, do they dissipate with aging?
Yeah, so the acidity doesn't. It stays bright and pretty, but the tannins start subduing, and they become something else in flavor. It also goes from, you get a little bit of mushroomy notes on this, but as it ages, that mushroom flavor is going to come screaming through, and the red fruit's going to take a back seat. So you're going to get more forest floor.
I'm feeling the big takeaway from this is, if you're new to Italian wines, trying to understand them, Dolcetto should be your entry level. It's an easy one to get. It still needs to be paired with food. And then from there, you can start to play around. But start with the Dolcetto as your... Because, it's interesting is some people will go, hey, if it's older and more expensive, that's got to be the best, right? You know what I mean? And that's where I think this is really fascinating. Because, again, with Italian wines and a tasting have been probably one of the bigger letdowns I've ever had.
Right.
You know what I mean? Other wines, frankly, stand on their own in a tasting. Of course, I have no doubt that Italian wines, in the right context, like the freaking cheap Chianti Caschi straw bottle from the pizza joint, the mom and pop pizza joint, was always like fun. So and we're all in Piedmont. I think I might have to get a little Dolcetto action just to kind of get my toes in the pool.
Yeah, and there are other grapes throughout the entire country of Italy that could be your starting reference point to Italian reds. Or Italian whites. Just in this region, it's easiest to start with Dochetto. You don't even need food. You can just hang out and drink. The reason why I thought about Barolo and Piemonte for Christmas dinner, almost everybody, or at least a lot of people, think of ham or prime rib. This Barolo and a prime rib on Christmas is perfect.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So you say prime rib, we're talking slow roast.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of pink, a lot of red, and like
juicy,
freaking
fatty,
horseradish.
Yeah, juicy and fatty. Yeah. And this, it's perfect. And I would decant this thing like a young. This is a 2016 Odero Barolo. I would throw this in and leave it in the decanter for 4 hours before, during your midday snack and you're drinking the Barbera before you're getting ready for dinner that evening. Throw it in the decanter and leave it there. I've decanted Barolos for like 6 hours before dinners to take them to a restaurant. Yeah, and they were older.
Can you imagine his Uber? He's like, sir, you cannot. I mean, it's an open container. And he's got something shaped like a swan. You know what I mean? Yeah. Dude, he's probably got his falcon on his arm. Coming in his Uber.
Yeah, you always pour it back in the bottle. You just double decant it. You leave it in the decanter and then funnel it back in the bottle and put the cork in.
I see.
Then show up to the restaurant and
For
say,
real?
Yeah.
Wow, you're a gangster.
Yeah.
I never
hardcore.
even thought about that.
That's hardcore.
Yeah, because I'd just be like, hey, what's up, wino?
Yeah.
Showing up with your thingy. But that's...
I actually want to do that now. I want to get into an Uber with a decanter filled with wine.
I'm really glad we had this talk because now Steve's going to go get arrested. I want a final thought about this stuff because it is Christmas. We're talking about food. I usually do a prime rib around Christmas time or whatever because it's easy and so fun. So I've had the most success with I'll get a standing rib roast. I'll rub it with fresh herbs and garlic and I think black pepper. No salt though, just the black. I'll wrap it up in the fridge, let it sit, overnight, maybe 2 days, whatever. Then I add the salt, throw it in for the reverse sear. So low and slow, 200, 225 degrees, and then I'll crank up the oven or the grill and then finish it off. Now, it's kind of fine on its own. And I'll probably just take like horseradish and like creme fraiche and just be like, dunk it on that and call it a day. However, a couple things have come my way, and because we're talking about now, I'm going to get a Borolo for this. Yeah. So I want to make sure maybe I'm seeing this through the best way possible. But I just want to start with the sauce for this. I had a revelation recently, and it's when I got my Peter Luger's steak. They sent me their steak sauce. Now, I will completely go on record and say, A1 is a sign of a bad steak in a bad restaurant, right? But at the same time, people love it. I mean, there's a reason why it came out, and I used it for a while until I was like, well, it overwhelms a steak. But, it's like Worcestershire. Like, it's cool to use it sometimes here and there for a reason, just not all the time. The freaking sauce from Peter Luger's. And believe me, I was like, this does not need anything. The person who sold me the chicken dust was like, please don't put sauce on your steak. I'm like, do that. Nice. However, I swear to you, I cracked open this sauce. It was freaking delicious. It was like shrimp cocktail sauce, but a little steaky. It almost took what was a very, very aged steak and just lightened the load.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. It's like, I'm having all this blue cheese. Like, can it end? Can we just chill for a second? And you eat a grape. And you're like, relief. Like, that steak sauce as easy. Look, it's tangy, spicy, ketchupy. It was good.
Nice.
Would that work with the Borolo?
Yeah.
Let's start with that.
Yeah? That'd be fine. I like sauces with steaks. My favorite is mushroom sauces. Any sort of mushroom sauce in a steak.
That's fancy pants. I'm not trying to go for some freaking truffly cream. I'm talking freaking a next level up. It's like having oysters and chasing instead of having it with a vinaigrette or the mignonette. You're having it with the actual like red sauce.
Yeah, the sauce isn't going to interrupt this wine at all.
Good to know.
This wine is powerful. I mean, it's as delicate as I described the flavor profiles. It is a powerful wine. It is tannic.
So I'm going to hit you with all the sauces because I think I've had some of the very best sauces to ever have with red meats, including lamb. Puttanesca on steak, lights out. Completely delicious. And then Italian salsa verde.
Oh,
so it's kind of the Italian version of chimichurri. Mine has peppers and anchovies. Will that work?
This might kill that sauce. But I love that sauce. the Italian chimichurri, and I can't remember what it's called.
Salsa Verde. It's the most confusing thing because if you type in Salsa Verde, you'll be like, here comes tomatillos.
Yeah.
But Italian Salsa Verde, frankly, is probably the beef tenderloin's best friend. Like the lamest, most boring steak in the world is actually an incredible sponge for this stuff. And you'll kind of
for that sauce, a T-bone that's sliced, drizzled with very good olive oil, and that sauce. Yeah.
But that wine would overwhelm.
Yeah, the lighter sauces. I would stick away from cream, salsa verde. I would go for heavier, richer sauces.
Now, what about the puttanesca? I'm looking that up. It says there's olives involved.
Yeah, so the olives
garlic.
might throw a little brininess. Well, it's going to throw a little
too
brininess.
much salt. It says capers are in there as well.
Capers,
so would this be too salty?
It'll be okay. That wine's not going to get hurt, but it's going to hurt the sauce a little bit.
It sounds like it should be demi-glace, reductions, and sauces, aged mushrooms, dried mushroom, like that kind
After
of stuff.
doing the prime rib and you throw all the mushrooms that you've cooked down into that and make a pan sauce from the prime rib, that's what you want with that one.
You know, this is what's going to happen.
Nice.
I'm gonna fork out a freaking ton of money because what's going to happen is, A, I'm going to buy the Barolo Reserva. B, I'm going to make a freaking porcini freaking gravy. You son of a b. It's going to be good just to prove that the wine was. You know, that's a problem with Barolo. It drives you to make an expensive sauce.
Or what about the mushroom risotto that you were talking about as well?
Yeah, you could have that for. I'm a big fan of eating all day long. So you have a wild mushroom risotto like around 2 o'clock, and you have the Barbera, and maybe some fresh Parmesan on top.
You know, I'm an idiot. I swear to God, I'm gonna just use that damn Peter Luger sauce because I almost want to send you a bottle of this.
I want to try it.
So it's like I think when you have it. First, I had it. I made shrimp cocktail and I dunked it in that. It's freaking delicious. Okay. And I say it's freaking delicious the way Big Mac sauce is freaking delicious. If you make Big Mac sauce and put it on your homemade burger, you're like, sweet. This is a good idea. Like it's nothing.
Steak sauce. It's it looks like it's about $15 or so.
Jesus. Those people, man. I mean, it's not
12, 15, something like that.
You can make that sauce for like it's freaking.
I got it for like $7 at some place too. I'm just looking it up. So,
but this
it's. I mean, I was surprised at actually how good it was. You know. But I mean, all right. So Barolo and cream spinach would work well.
Yeah,
that's
all the little fixings that go with
it's
Christmas dinner. It's the prime rib, the rich pan sauce, mushroom sauce, and that wine. You're going to be set. You don't need to think about anything else.
Borolo and charcuterie?
A little too much. I would stick with the Pelaverga, the Dochetto, or the Barbera with the salumi plate.
So the Barolo's for the main event.
It's for the big boy.
It's literally like, what's your entree? Is it going to be something that like features like a wonderful, musty, earthy, aged mushroom? Is it going to be... Would a welly work? Would it work with the Wellington?
Yeah. Hell yes. Yeah.
He's making me work so hard. You know what? I should just go out to eat and like
prime rib.
Find a B-roll.
Man, Christmas to me is always prime rib. I don't know. Standing rib roast, the heavy sauce, all the rich garlic mashed potato, all the stuff that go with it.
The point, you're leveling up everything, right? You're getting a better piece of meat. You're getting a better bottle of wine. It's Christmas. Let's celebrate.
You're with the people that you love. You're having a great time. It's really an all-day affair. You're not hopping around to different Thanksgiving spots like you do over the holiday for Thanksgiving. You're at one spot, and you're there. You're settled in.
Barolo's very interesting. It really requires like that. Like that true, like when you order the entree, the old school waiter would say, an excellent choice.
Exactly.
You know?
And he would decant it as soon as you ordered it. And it would sit there and decant.
$50 entree.
And then when the main course came, then he would bring it over to you.
I'm now going to obsess over how to pull off. I can figure out the porch.
You're going to have one of your best Christmas dinners ever. I can already see it.
The problem is I can pull it off. It's just the plating's a whole other. Although that's what's nice about a roast.
Yeah,
is like it's just kind of there.
That's the nice part about cooking at home. You don't have to care about the plating.
Hey, there you go.
I mean, no one's going to judge you. Your wife's not going to come in and say, that plating looks
Instagram
horrible.
Well, that's the problem.
Oh, Instagram will.
Yeah.
Ooh, hey, I got one. I just published this recipe today, and I think you guys should all. I don't know. I know by the time everyone hears this, it won't be Thanksgiving. But the truth is, it is Thanksgiving, and I just did a little go-ahead dish. Really easy, delicious thing. You can make in advance. Just awesome to have. It's a sweet potato gratin. You quarter-inch sliced sweet potatoes. You put them in a buttered. I put them in a aluminum baking pan. I threw mine in my grill or whatever. But layers of the potato, salt, pepper, in a buttered pan. Then you just mix cream and thyme and pour it over. Wrap it in foil. Bake it for 45 minutes. Take the foil off. Bake it for another 20. Yep. Right, just a thing. So it's it's a sweet potato gratin. Again, awesome. Flavors are salt, pepper, cream, thyme. Would that work? With
oh my God, yeah. And the prime rib and that and everything on the plate together with the mushroom sauce and that wine, you're not going to want to stop eating or drinking. It's just going to go.
I'm trying to understand this flavor profile of Barolo and how that.
This is exactly how we talked about last week with natural wine. I can only do so much to explain it to you. There are certain regions that you can explain the wine fairly easily. Usually, because almost everybody has had that wine too. California Chardonnay, Napa Cab, Santa Barbara Pinot Noir, Champagne. You can come pretty close to describing, maybe not the nuances, but at least the general flavor profile. In the case of Borolo, because most people have never had it, and it's so unique, you have to try it.
It almost seems like you want not a lot of flavors coming from the food, but richness.
Yeah, but you get a lot of umami from something that a standing rib roast that roasted.
But I mean, capers, anchovies, Parmesan,
stay away from
spice.
Parmesan surprisingly goes with bigger reds than most people think. So softer. Triple cream cheeses, maybe not so much.
You said umami. You did say umami. Okay, focus on umami.
Umami.
All right. I'm really excited for Christmas,
and
this is good.
There's a lot of sage that goes. Like I mentioned, the Piemontese salumi has nutmeg. They use a lot of more flavorful spices up in Piemonte. So sage. They use a lot of sage. Sage and agnolotti. So you're going to be able to get away with a little more flavor. Just stay away from the more vinegar, salty flavors like capers or puttanesca.
Stay away from acidity.
Yeah. Let's go deep in the umami world here.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
This was great.
Awesome.
I think we
Steve.
kept it under an hour. I don't know. It's a lot less than the last 3 episodes. So, I think we did a really good job. We got something special for next week, by the way.
Great. Yeah. This is going to be our final episode of season 2. Okay.
Season 2.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Great.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Steve with Northern Italian wines today. What a drink that. Special one that we had. So thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Ali. Sign out.
See you guys.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.